What's up, everybody? Jed Johnson here with another episode of Cooking with Napalm. Time for more chicken. Came out to the grill and brought the camera with me, and I want to answer some of the questions that have come in recently, most of them right here at the YouTube channel. Before I get into these, just want to make sure that you're aware that I got a new program out that's called November to Remember. And the idea of this program is, by the end of this month, we're going to hit the holidays full steam, and that's when a lot of people end up putting on weight that they don't want, body fat. And what we're doing with November to Remember is we're totally getting ahead of the curve and starting to cut down now. We're not waiting until January to put on this barrage of fat burning. We're doing it right now, getting ahead of the holidays so we don't put on extra weight. If you're interested in that, check out the link below this video. Now, on to the questions. Here we go. Hello, Jed. I start hand grip training 3 months ago. I was able to close 200-pound heavy-duty grip 3 times. Now I can close it 20 times. But yet I'm like 5 credit cards away from closing the 250-pound. And it feel the big 50-pound difference between each hand grip is a lot. And feel it slow down my progress. And I can't afford to buy another complete set of new hand grip. Is there a way to overcome this issue? Okay, so he's closing the 200-pound 20 times, and the 250-pound, he's still 5 cards away. So he's seeing progress on a lighter gripper. He's not seeing any progress on the heavier gripper. So, optimally, he needs some kind of middle ground gripper. You don't need a full set, but you need some kind of middle ground gripper. That would be my best suggestion to you. Okay? The other thing that I want to say is you can't take a light gripper and close it a whole bunch of times, double-digit times, 20 times, and expect to improve on a higher level gripper. Alright, essentially what you're doing is, let's use an analogy of a squat. If your goal is to squat 500 pounds, you're not going to go and do 20 reps at 225. That is not going to do it for you. You've got to constantly be working with heavier ranges in the squat in order to build up your squat. The gripper, hand gripper training is exactly the same. You've got to do the majority of your work with higher intensity grippers. If you want to get to 250, then you've got to work with something that's around that 250, but slightly lighter. So if you're 5 credit cards away from a 250, then what you'd want to do is you'd want to find a gripper that's probably 230 or 240 and work on it. And you would want to focus on training with the gripper closed. Get it closed and hold it. That is actually the whole entire idea behind my gripper program, cadence-based gripper training. For more information, there's a link in the description. But absolutely, do not think that just because you're repping out on a lighter gripper that it's going to correlate to a close on a bigger gripper. It doesn't work that way. It's been proven lots of times. The disparity between those two grippers, even though it sounds like they're not too far away, a 200, which is not 200 pounds to close, and 250, which isn't 250. But anyway, that's another whole video. The disparity there is too much for you to work on one in order to get to the other. You need something in between there, or you need to do something to make your lighter gripper harder. That's all there is to it. Alright, here's another one. Another question for you. I think it's called a choke hold with a sledgehammer. I am trying to hold one end of the hammer and hold it straight, perfectly parallel to the ground with a 14-pound sledge. It's difficult, to say the least. Ha-ha. I guess I'm just wondering, what is the heaviest one you've done or seen? I also do a lot of other training with the sledge, pronation and supination, and lots of different holds for my forearms to get them to grow. Alright, so the best sledgehammer choke by the rules of gripsport.org that I've ever seen done, and what that is the sledgehammer choke starts with the sledgehammer on the floor. You put a quarter on the top, you lift it up onto an 18-inch platform without the coin coming off. Those are the rules of the sledge choke. The best one that I have seen done is by Luke Raymond, a 14-pound sledgehammer in the sledgehammer choke. Now, if you're talking about taking a sledgehammer from the floor, lifting it up as perfectly level as you can to a full deadlift lockout position and then setting it back down with the coin, then the best that I have seen is a 12-pound sledgehammer by Rex Hubbard, and that was back in 2008 or 2009, I believe. The difference between a sledgehammer choke and a sledgehammer deadlift, there's quite a bit actually. And it can get quite confusing. In fact, I even created some of that confusion by accident by calling the sledgehammer choke the sledgehammer deadlift in some of my videos in the past. There is a great difference between the two. A sledgehammer deadlift is where you start on the floor and you pick it up to a lockout position, then you set it down without the coin coming off until you set it back down. Sledgehammer choke, you pick it up and you load it onto the platform without the coin coming off, and that's all there is to it. Aside from that, there's not a lot of other rules. So that's the difference. But in my experience, a 12-pound sledge is the best I've seen done. The best I have done with that is, I believe it's just an 8-pound. I don't think I've ever gotten a 10-pound that way because I don't even own a 10-pound sledge. And here's the final question. This one had to do with my final, I think it was my final Yoketober workout of the month. And the question is, how do you feel about doing high pulls with a normal bar instead of an axle? So I was doing my high pulls, which is an Olympic style lift, where you take a bar out of the rack and you explode it up like this, and I was using an axle. Generally you would use just an Olympic bar or a powerlifting bar. He wants to know what my thoughts are about doing high pulls with a normal bar instead of an axle. Is the only difference to get rid of some wrist pain. So he wants to know if I'm doing it for wrist pain. No, I am not using the axle for wrist pain at all. Not because I have wrist pain or because it causes me wrist pain or anything. The reason that I use the axle is simply for the grip aspect. So during Yoketober, I was using a lot of thick bars, wanting to strengthen my grip at the same time as I was working on the yoke. I wanted to move weight, but I also wanted to strengthen my hands. So for some of those lifts, I was using the axle in order to get my thick bar in for the day. That's really the only reason. The only change that I make to barbells for wrist pain is when I'm doing curls and I use globe grips. That's really about it. As far as that's concerned, the weights drop when you're using an axle. I know for me they did. I'm sure I can probably do, I don't know, 225 maybe in a high pull. I'm not quite sure on an Olympic bar, but on an axle I was only using between 155 and 185 throughout the month. But what's cool about that is it's such a dynamic effort that's going on there. Your forearms get hit hard when you're doing high pulls with an axle. So it's totally different, way harder on an axle for the hands. But it really just depends on what your goal is. You should work at whatever your goal is. Don't use an axle just because Jed Johnson uses an axle. Use an axle if you want to increase your grip strength, or if you're using the drill in order to prepare for something like a grip contest or a strongman contest. Alright, I hope that's been helpful for everybody. We'll have more videos coming up soon. Make sure to subscribe. And don't forget to check out the links in the description box. Lots of cool things coming your way, including a huge combat bundle that I'm a part of this week. Check that out too. That's something that is around for only a short time. Again, the link is in the description box below. All the best in your training, everybody. Take care.